Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Welcome to today's very first episode of You Don't Know Squat. I'm your host, Rob, and this is a very highly requested video about giants. Now, I'm ready to open a big can of worms. A giant can of worms, if you will. So, over the past few weeks, I have been really digging into giants. And now that might be a random topic, but hear me out. It is so underrated, and it is basically historical fact. And why is no one talking about giants? All throughout America, as soon as Columbus, Vespucci, all the other settlers came in here, why do you think the Vikings left? There's historical accounts of Vikings coming here, but they left. Egyptians, they left. Why? Because it was the land of the giants. Now, this may come as a surprise to some people, but Abraham Lincoln even said in one of his speeches at Niagara Falls that I have gazed at this falls as the giants of America once have, or something of that effect. Now, is it that hard to assume that giants used to be here? There are over 800 articles in old newspapers from 1800s to the early 1900s that tell of uncovering of giant bones, some between 7 to 12 feet tall. 12 feet tall! Now, if you look at Yao Ming, Andre the Giant, The Big Show, those are 7 feet tall people right there. And they're talking 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet. These are giants. These are legit giants. And it just baffles me that no one talks about this. And in the old days, in the 50s and the 40s and 30s, museums across America had these giant bones on display. But all of a sudden, just like that, the Smithsonian came and swooped it away, uncovered it. Covered it up. Why? I have a theory about this. They are protecting the theory of evolution, or it has something to do with the Bible. Now, in the Bible, they talk about this species called the Nephilim, which were hybrid offspring from the gods mating with the man. Sumerian has the same exact tale. So do the gods of Olympus. So do Egyptians. And so, if you take into this account, pretend that every single culture at this time was connected. History wasn't as far spread as people say that it was. So imagine that they all talk to each other. They all have the same exact tales of these gods mating with men to create giants, called the Nephilim. Now, is that puzzling or not? That would give validity to the Bible. It would give validity to the Sumerian tablets. And one rabbit hole would lead to another rabbit hole, which would lead to another rabbit hole, which would lead to another, which would wake people up out of this slumber that they are in right now. And the powers that be do not want that. So that is my theory. So, why am I interested in this? I have a certain blood type, O negative. And a lot of these giants and O negatives are said to have derived from Sardinia, Italy. So I can probably trace my ancestry back there. So if that's the case, I think that I am somehow a far off, distant relative of these giants, as I am 6'2" myself. So that's just a theory. I'm not saying it's fact. But another interesting thing about these giants is they were buried in mounds all across America, mostly Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. They have found hundreds of mounds, and buried with them are giant bronze swords, armor, just to name a few, handheld, axes. And some of the axes are like that big, like a bowling ball. And, if you're wielding an axe, you don't want a 30-pound head of an axe. No man can lift that. You have to be at least 9 feet tall to lift something like that. Another interesting fact about these is all of the accounts say they were buried in some sort of tubes standing up. Not all of them, but some were. And they actually have old photographs of that. And they're described as having bright red hair, double sets of teeth, and 6 fingers and 6 toes. Now that's interesting because that would make it not human. And that's another reason they're covering this up. Because to find out that there were non-humanoids living in America pre, the settlers, it's baffling. It would flip history. And the Native Americans here would always tell tales of constant wars with these giants. There was one Apache legend of this giant called Big Owl who would terrorize the tribes and eat people. So my theory is once the Nephilim, once the Anunnaki left Earth, which were the gods that mated with men to create these giants. Once they left Earth, these giants were left here. And they tried to take control of humanity. However, there were not enough of them as much as there are of humans. And that's why you get the story of David versus Goliath. This was the first time a man opposed the giants. And that gave hope to humanity. Humanity said, let's cast away these giants. Let's defeat them. And if you recall the Greek legends, the Titans, these were the Titans. The giants were Titans. Everything, all these different cultures, if you really look into it, it leads to the same exact outcome. And it's crazy. If you look at the old Sumerian tablets, there's pictures of giants with men, little men, next to them. If you look at Egyptian pharaohs, the tablets, the hieroglyphs, the pharaohs were giant, the men were small. Greek history, they have legends of giants and little men, pictures of it. Native Americans, exact same thing. And so, all across the world, I believe that humanity was becoming free from these reigns of the giants. They were breaking free from the ruling class of the Titans. And so eventually, more and more giants went into hiding. And they just kept hiding and becoming more and more extinct. And this would explain the fact that they lived in caves. They came across to America to find a new land that wasn't with humans, but eventually humans, as the proliferating blight that we are, came over to the Americas. Believe during the Ice Age they crossed over from Asia to Canada and made their way down. And that's what developed the Native Americans, Aztecs, and all that. And so the natives of Americas had, for hundreds, thousands of years, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years, constantly warred with these giants. The giants would come into the tribes and eat the people because the food sources were scarce. Probably not. They weren't scarce, but due to maybe laziness and not wanting to run around and hunt buffalo or whatever, they just went into tribes and just took them, ate them. And so this gave reason for the Native Americans to fight back, and eventually they were mostly killed. There were very few, maybe there are some still even today. I know in Afghanistan, a military operation went into the mountains, and they came across a platoon that was in array. Guns were down, people were dead everywhere, and this was in front of a cave, so they went to explore. They thought maybe there was a terrorist nearby that we're going to get to them. But out of the cave comes this massive, I think it was 9-foot tall giant. Red hair, double sets of teeth, 6 fingers, 6 toes. Comes out with a spear, stabs one guy, and all of them start focusing on his face with machine guns, and they eventually take him down. But I think the story was that it took 20 to 30 seconds of straight machine gun fire at this guy to take him down from 6 different soldiers. So these were massive, strong men. And it's just crazy that time has completely forgot about these. I see it as actually, historical fact. There's just too much evidence, too many pictures of these giant skeletons that were smart. I don't know how smart, but smart enough to build their own weaponry, smart enough to hunt their own food, and it's just insane that this is all covered up by the Smithsonian. It's just, overnight they just decided to hide it all. And this would describe massive monuments around the world. If you look at Petra in Jordan, there are these giant doorways that lead into this palace. Now, and first of all, it's built into a cave or a canyon wall. How the heck did humans get to do that? Climb that tall and make this entire city inside of the caves with these giant freaking doorways. That's one example. Then we have Stonehenge, massive blocks moved hundreds of miles. They're saying the blocks are from Wales that were moved there. And even the pyramids. There are hieroglyphs that show giants carrying blocks over to the pyramids when they were building it. Now, that doesn't tell you something. I don't know what will. And even in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there is, he was described as fighting a lion. And in the images that came along with it, Gilgamesh was shown as a massive man, and the lion was in his arms was like the size of a house cat. It's just, it's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. So another theory is that these were remnants of Atlanteans, highly advanced civilization that they grew very tall, and they had lifespans of 1,000 years, or thousands of years probably, because I know the Anunnaki is described to have had lifelongs about like that. And so if that's true, then over thousands of years of hiding, say like this, the ones in America and the ones in the cave of Afghanistan, if you're hiding in a cave for a couple thousand years, I think you would go kind of crazy. And that's why they ate people. That's why they attacked people. They had a survival sense, just stay alive, survive, hide. So they attacked. And that's my take on the whole thing. But it's just absolutely incredible that no one is talking about this. This should be taught in history books. You know, the battles of giants and Native Americans. You know, it's great stories. There should be Hollywood blockbuster movies about this. You know, the overcoming of the rule of the giants. I mean, even, yeah, like I said, Columbus, when he came here, there were hybrid chiefs who were like 8 feet tall. Not as big as some of the ones they found in the burial mounds that were probably the attackers, but some of these chiefs were 8 feet tall that they met. There's pictures of it. Yeah. It's insane. America is the land of the giants. This is a entirely new history of America that no one knows. And you tell people this and they think you're crazy. But I'm absolutely convinced. 100% convinced. Take this for what you will, but this is my first episode of You Don't Know Squat. I'm your host, Rob, signing out.